It's odd. What's the there we go. You guys hear me okay? Hi, Jorge.
Okay. Hello, I can hear you.
Good, good. I noticed I got a lot of noise in my image today. I'm not sure why that is. See if I can fix that real quick. That might help. Might help. Who knows? Admit all. Oh, we got Gerald coming on immediately. All right. Everybody, if you want, you can, well, if you just remember to unmute yourself if you have questions. I'm going to get this thing going here momentarily. I just want to make sure that we don't have any stragglers here in the waiting room. Good, excellent. Okay. Nice background, Gerald. That's awesome. Directors Guild of America. Excellent. I hope you guys are ready for this. I was hoping we would. Oh, good. We got Cody in here. We got Adam, some folks coming in now. Good. I was hoping to attract a little bit larger crowd today. If we have somebody who can speak intelligently of the Directors Guild of America and give you some interesting background, history, feedback to your questions. I just want to give it another minute or two to see who else might be kind of waiting around out there. I know we always get some folks that like to come in about 5 minutes past the hour. So how you guys doing in the meantime? Everybody cool?
Yeah, all good. I do got a question about something I'm trying to work on with graduation.
With graduation?
Yeah.
I hope I can help you with that topic. I don't know. You can give it a try. We'll see what we can come up with.
It's asking when am I graduating in the college of, because film wasn't in the menu.
No, film is not a college. Film is a program. So currently the UCF film program is in the College of Communication Arts and Sciences. Okay.
Communications and Sciences.
And the school is Nicholson School of Communication and New Media.
It would probably just be College of Sciences, because that's what I chose for my graduation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see the new media one. Yeah. So
that's the new name of the Nicholson School. So what used to be Nicholson School of Journalism, and now it's the Nicholson School of Communication and New Media. And then under the New Media banner, we have film. Under communication, we have journalism, we have film, and we have digital media under the New Media designation of that. So it's this long extra name now, but that's where we're at. We used to be under Arts and Humanities. Now it's Communication Sciences. So
it seems weird. It seems weird to not have it in arts, because movies are art after all.
Well, I don't know. We can talk with Gerald about that. I think it's a perfect blend of art and science, but in terms of budgets and the UCF structure and the way that works, we're better off in the College of Sciences.
Well, maybe that's more. Well, maybe that's more of a reason to get hired, though, because people
Always boils
consider the
down to
science
money.
people smart. I've never considered myself a scientist, but here we are.
Well, there you have it. So don't go out and try to launch any rockets or anything, but just understand that at least for budgetary reasons and for the ease of structure within the overall umbrella of arts and sciences and humanities, we are now in the sciences wing of that institutional structure. So What did I want to ask you? Oh, I know in particular, a few of you are working on the Coca-Cola thing. So how is that coming? Because I've had a few consultations now with groups that are submitting. I have one group that sent me all of their documents today to look at and to sign.
Oh, wow,
Did you
already?
guys, well, yeah, already next week on Friday is the ultimate deadline, but I sent out an announcement a couple of days ago. Did you guys see the announcement that was informing you of the all school pitch sessions that Refreshing Films is holding? And then our
Right.
exclusive pitch session on Friday of this week, that's tomorrow. And that your recommended deadline for submission, you should think of, tell yourself it's Tuesday, the 19th, and get all of your documents and things ready to go by then. So you can send everything into Refreshing Films. And if there's a problem with anything that you've submitted, if you're missing a document, if you're missing a signature, if you have improper naming conventions, anything that would typically disqualify you, if you get it in early enough, they can kind of suss that out and send materials back to you for to be adjusted and resubmitted by the ultimate deadline of Friday of next week. Okay.
All right. You want George and I to talk to you after class about it?
Could do that. That would be fine. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, just to make sure that you're squared away and you're on track. Okay. I don't want anybody to miss out on being considered for something as stupid as a file naming convention or missing a signature or missing something on your budget. Okay.
Right.
So let's think about talking to you guys either after this Zoom session, or we can schedule a new one, or you can meet at my office on campus tomorrow, next week, whatever works for you. Okay.
Well, we got the pitch tomorrow.
We have the pitch tomorrow. So yeah, there's the all school pitch meeting at 1 o'clock, and then there's the UCF pitch meeting at 3 o'clock. I recommend you do both. Okay. Because the all school pitch meeting is open to any students submitting from any of the colleges that you saw in the Coca-Cola PDF. Okay. So you're going to hear students from USC, from UCLA, from Tisch, from SVAD, from Tallahassee, from Ringling, from here, discussing their ideas. And I think it would be a good thing to expose you to what other students are thinking about, what they're going to try and do. And that might help to inspire you or temper your expectations, one or the other. At least give you a sense of what you're up against. And then you have all weekend to kind of adjust your material, and then see me on Monday or Tuesday. I'll sign your budgets and we can fire that stuff off. Okay.
All right.
So I'd recommend doing both. It's from 1 to 2:30 is the all school on Friday tomorrow, and then ours is from 3 to 4:30. So it's not a terribly long investment of your time, but I think it would be very much in your best interest to listen in on what other students are thinking about. So keep that in mind. Last week we talked about festivals, and we talked about a couple of specific grant funding options that were associated with the Love Your Shorts Festival, and we had Gene Kruckmeyer in to talk to you. Are there any lingering thoughts about that, or any questions about what you guys saw and learned last week in the Zoom meeting before I move into the new topic at hand for this afternoon? I'm seeing heads wagging, so I'm thinking that we're good to proceed. Okay. All right. Okay, so then what I want to do this afternoon is I want to introduce Gerald Wu. I consider him a personal friend of mine, but we have also been colleagues. We've worked together in the past. And Gerald is an active member of the Directors Guild of America. It's not a trade union, it's a guild, so it has different implications. Remember, we talked about below the line and above the line and what these people are doing in the division of labor. So the Directors Guild resides on the side of the budgetary line that includes management, like directors, assistant directors, unit production managers, actors, people of that ilk that all kind of represent the sort of the the tip of the creative mountain, so to speak. And then below the budgetary line, we have labor represented by all of the different crafts and unions associated with cameras, grips, lighting, all of that sort of stuff. So the Directors Guild is in the management portion of the production structure. And of course, the assistant directors are standing by to aid the director in creative choices, but predominantly scheduling choices, logistical choices, management of crew time, and cadence, the structure of our day, the schedule, keeping us on track to gather all the content we need on a daily basis to make sure that we reach our production objectives every day, giving the editors what they need to keep a running edit going on our program, whether it's a feature film or a television show. In the beginning of pre-production, they're scheduling out the whole production schedule, giving us a sense of what scenes we can tackle first based on the logistics of availability of actors, availability of locations, possible weather constraints, things of that nature. They are there to assist in the meetings and help coordinate table reads and pre-production meetings and communication between production and vendors and crew and so forth. So they really have a lot on their plate. And without upstaging Gerald in any way, what I'd like to do is introduce you to him. I put his bio, sort of a compressed bio on web courses for you to get a sense of who this gentleman is, but I want him to tell you in his own words what his background is, what his relationship with the industry has been over the years, and then talk to you just about, extemporaneously about a day in the life of an assistant director, what it's like, what kind of problems he's managing, and what kinds of experiences he's gathering in the industry at a very high level. So without any further rambling on my part, I want to introduce Gerald, and I hope that you appreciate the time that he's taken to come in and talk to us. I certainly do. Please, I think it's okay, Gerald. You can tell us whether or not you want to take questions on the fly or whether you want us to hold our Q&A till the end. How you want to approach this. And I'm going to turn it over to you now. I can make you, do you have any documents you want to show? Can I make you a co-host in case you want to show your screen for any reason?
You can.
So I'm hitting the make you a co-host button right now. You should see a little prompt, an accept prompt or something to let you know. If you want to share your screen, just let me know. I'll stop sharing mine.
Okay.
And then
yeah, I don't have much to show.
Okay.
So you guys can ask questions anytime you want, because this is very informal. So I just want to say, I didn't realize we did that much on set. But anyway, I'm just kidding. So I've been in the business 35 years. I started out as a production assistant like most people. I worked my way up, and I've worked on different mediums, just about all of them except for soap operas. I've worked in 6 positions professionally, including AD, director, producer, cinematographer, and stage manager, and one other thing which I won't mention because I'm not very proud of it. But being an AD is one of the things that I strive to be. I started off as a PA, like I told you. I started in New York. I'm from New York City. I worked with Spike Lee before he was known as Spike Lee, and I was actually going to college for IT, and that's really what I was destined to. I thought I wanted to be, but I got on this commercial with a friend of mine for a weekend, and it changed my whole life. I've been in it ever since. It's been ups and downs. Don't get me wrong. It's not all been pretty. It's not all been great, but I wouldn't have changed it for anything. People who go to work think it's a job. I never thought it was a job. I have so much passion for it, and Mike knows, especially for film, more than just digital video, but it's something that I have lived for. I continue to do it this day, and if it wasn't for COVID, I'd still be working in the film industry. It's a little bit slow right now, obviously, but
it's going to be slower if they strike.
yeah, well, no, that's going to happen. But you got to look at it as self-motivation. You have to go out there, find your own jobs. You have to go find your own network. You have to pitch yourself. So you have to be a salesperson. You have to be somewhat of an extrovert. I'm not saying you have to be 100% extrovert, but you have to be aggressive enough to go out there and get those jobs for yourself. You have to sell yourself to whoever you're talking to, and you have to have that ability to go step in there and create that conversation so your name gets tossed around as somebody who should be hired. And I've done that my whole career. I'm not going to say I did all of it 100% because I've had help along the way. If you do a good job and you give it 100% and you just don't whine about it and you never quit and you think about reputation is everything in the business, then what's going to happen is they're going to start calling you. And that's when you know you've made it. Okay. And of course, when they start calling you and you start moving up into the positions, from PA to second AD to second AD to first AD, then you're going to start making more money. And of course, we all know that's where it's at, is the money. So it always helps. But I've held other positions professionally as well, and I wanted to try them all out. I don't suggest that because every time I've changed positions, I had to start at ground zero, including the salary wise too. So think about that. If you want to be an AD, it is the primary directive to be a production manager. And, you could spawn off into two separate tangent lines. You can go into the director side, which is the creative side. And why is it science? Because there's also a technical side to it. Like Mike said, the logistics is the technical side. And I guess that's where they get the science from it. And then you can also go to the other side, which is the producer side, production manager, producer, where it's the business, where it's the money, the budgets, as Mike said. And also it's the people side, because that's the one who hires the crew. That's the one who hires the cast. That's the one who has to deal with a lot of the selling and getting the funding for the project. So I've done it both. Okay. I've done it both ways successfully. And I prefer the creative side myself. I personally have considered myself a director AD from the beginning. I've produced many things in the past, but working with the budgets and working with those kind of vendors is just not really, I'm not going to say it's not something that I like, but it's not the thrill. Okay. When I get on a set and I'm near the camera and I'm shooting a scene, I don't care what it is, that to me is my thrill. Okay. Yeah, the money's great. Working with famous people or famous directors or crew, cast, whatever, that's great too. But to me, it's just being on a live set. That's the thrill to me. And it doesn't matter if the set is, we're doing, Mike and I go shooting some B-roll footage in Lake Eola. To me, that's still being on set. Okay. So that to me is thrilling. And that's why I always say, hey, when are we going to go shoot? But, being in a DGA is a benefit. A lot of people ask, should you go into the union, especially SAG players, IATSE, and DGA? My answer is yes. And the reason why is because it is a backbone for you. It is a person or persons that's going to help you. They're going to watch your back. They're going to make sure everything is safe, hence the IATSE strike. They're going to make sure that you get paid according to what you should be. They're going to make sure that you get benefits. They're going to, watch out to make sure the production company is sound, that they're going to pay you. Okay. So they check them all out because they have to be signatory, which means that they have to go through an approval process and pay a fee in order to get into the DGA signatory status. If you want to get into the DGA as an AD, there's three separate ways you can do it. The first way is you could get a deal memo, or it's called a commercial project listing from a DGA signatory employer, like a studio, production company, or some other kind of business that has that kind of right. There's the DGA training program, which I'll talk about that in a little bit if you'd like. And of course, the third one is working in the business as either a PA or second AD. You need 600 days working. 25% can only be office. work or prep days, and the rest of the 75% has to be on-set shooting days. Okay, the second way is 350 days if you're employed as a second AD, first AD, UPM, or an associate director. That would be like in television, for example. So that way, there is no other restrictions there on what the days are, but it just has to be those positions. Now you're asking me, how do you figure out what the days are? Okay, so they have to be days that are basically, you have to have a payroll stub that verifies it. You have to have a call sheet. You have to have a production report. And these are required paperwork that is only going to be used for that. Okay. Now, what about 1099? You know, like typical freelance jobs, what about cash jobs? What about payroll? I'm sorry. What about personal checks or company checks? Those don't count. They used to about 15, 20 years ago, but not anymore. Everything has to be payrolled because that is the only thing that can be verified. Because frankly, nowadays with your scanners and your printers and your computers and software, you can make up most of that stuff now. So this way they have somebody else, a third party, like a payroll company, cast and crew, for example, that can verify that you actually work those days because they have to keep those records forever. Okay. So you're asking me how long is it going to take? Well, I hate to tell you, it's at least 5 to 10 years to get that kind of paperwork, to get those many days. And the reason why it's that long is because when you're in the DGA, you represent the best of the best. You represent that your skill set is extremely, extremely on a high level. Because a lot of the DGA members who go onto these union guilds, first of all, your salary triples as if you were non-union. And also you start to get other benefits like overtime, forced call, and you're representing that you are going to do the best possible job and that these people are paying 3 times the amount of money instead of a non-union AD, that you will get the job done on time, on budget, and with safety, number one, in mind. All right. So any questions?
Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify those qualifying days with you to make sure that that's very clear to the students, because until you're in the guild, you're collecting qualifying days from the assumption as a series of non-union but payroll jobs that have paperwork verification process. So non-union commercials, non-union TV shows, non-union features that have been payrolled where you can document your employment, you have deal memos and so forth. They just didn't have a guild contract, which is something that you enjoy once you become a member of the DGA. So it's all your non-union work up to that point.
That is correct. Sorry, I should have said that.
I think you did, but I just want to reiterate points like that with the students to make sure that it's very clear. The other thing I wanted to ask you was, in the IATSE, for instance, if in your particular trade discipline or your particular craft, if all of the active membership are employed throughout your job market, like everybody in LA, all the lighting or grip guys are all on jobs, the IATSE is allowed to go into the non-union availability of talent and bring people into union structured jobs to gather days towards their what's called an industry experience roster from the Producers Guild out in Los Angeles. So does the Directors Guild do a similar thing, or do you not find that there's a particular need to draw on the non-union talent pool until they've petitioned the union for a membership?
That was my first way to get into the guild. I mentioned was, when I told you they could have a deal memo, the DGA receives a deal memo from a DGA signatory company, like a production company, studio, whatever, or on a commercial project listing, that person, let's just say it's me, for example, I'm a non-union, PA right now, and they're saying that this gentleman, production company XYZ, needs Gerald Wu to be the second AD on this project, which is a union signatory project, because they can't find anybody else. So basically what it is it's kind of like a jump start. Somebody just cracked the door open for you, and it's an easier way to get in. It doesn't happen often. I'm going to tell you.
Right.
98% of everybody goes through what's called the working days, the 600 days or the 350 days. 1% will get through by the deal memo. I'm going to call it the deal memo phase. And the other 1% is through the training program. And if you want me to go through the training program, I can. It's up to you
Love to
guys.
hear about that. Absolutely.
Okay.
So, but it sounds like that situation, the deal memo situation, is client driven, not guild driven. So like the IATSE, in an
Correct.
effort to fill rosters on all the different shows where they have contracts, they will proactively start calling best boys within the membership and say, you are permitted to hire non-union if you have a shortage of manpower on your particular show. Everybody on our active roster is working, so we have nobody to send you if you need extra guys for night work or whatever. But from your point of view, it sounds like this is client-based, where the client says, we've looked for a second AD. We haven't found anybody that we feel is qualified, but we have this individual who doesn't have a card yet, and we want to endorse this individual for membership into the union so they can work on our show. So it sounds like it's the opposite.
It's the opposite, because the theory here is, and the actual working order is, that in IATSE there's a whole lot of people on the crew from like an IATSE standard, like those positions, like grips and electrics. There's a ton more than there is on the AD platform. Typically, the AD platform has only between 3 and 4 people on a whole entire crew, no matter what it is. Whereas, grip and electrics, you can have anywhere minimum of 6 all the way up to 30. So your talent pool, you're going to have to grab a lot more per show or per project. In the AD department, it's not like that. And there are a ton more ADs out in the country than there are job positions. So there's always somebody available. The only issue is you might have to pull them from another state, and bring them in, and of course pay all that transportation, housing, and per diem fees, all that stuff you'd have to pay. But getting into the guild the deal memo way is very, very rare. Now, like I said, it's mostly by just the working days. Now, if you're looking at the DGA training program, I said 1%, and I'm being very, very generous. It's probably more like 0.01%, because when I looked at the numbers here, because I honest to God, I haven't talked about the training program in probably about 15 years now. By the way, I've been in the guild since 2003, and here's all my guild cards.
You got them all.
I got them all. So, and then, here's the latest. And so they went from ugly, boring, until now they put famous directors on it now.
Oh,
and that's my 2021. Anyway,
fancy.
So yeah, I just wanted to show you, because it's like, this is what I'm spending my money for, just to get one of these cards.
Ours have been the same crappy manila colored paper cards that I got in 2003 as well in the IATSE, and it's always been the same crappy little yellow cardboard card that disintegrates in your wallet.
These are nice, and they even put the names and addresses and contact information of the 2 guild offices, one in LA and one in New York, because nobody else counts. Apparently, this is what we're finding out.
That's nice.
So, by the way, one more thing. There's 3 areas in the DGA. Okay, there's the first area, which is Los Angeles, and what they call Southern California only. Okay, so San Francisco is not in the first area, just to let you know. The second area is New York, and it's just New York City, Manhattan. So everybody else on Long Island, New Jersey, Connecticut, no, screw you. You're not in the second area. And then there's a third area, which is everywhere else.
So it's not, so there's only 3 jurisdictions now. The
that is
2
correct.
sacred cows and everybody else.
And the problem is You cannot jump from one to the other
That was my question.
unless you get a what's called a qualification list or a QL list. And to get that list means that you have to work in that area X amount of days before you can actually work in that area. So talk about jumping from any area. Well, okay, and let me just say this one more time before I forget. You can go down, like the first area can work anywhere in the country. Okay. The second area can only work in the second and third area. Like New York can work anywhere else except for Southern California. If you're in the third area, you're screwed. You can't work in New York or LA. Okay. So it's very confusing. And
Do you think they're likely to come up with a fourth jurisdiction at some point involving Atlanta?
nope, it's in the third area still, which they're talking about bumping it up to the second area. So it'll be New York and Atlanta.
Oh,
Yeah. And
that's
only
odd.
Atlanta.
Ah,
So if you work in, say, Savannah or Valdosta, Georgia, yeah, you're not included in that. It's
okay.
like, wow, that's like slap in the face there. Anyway, let me get back
So
to some of the stuff here.
that is authorities having jurisdiction. So the three zones in the Directors Guild, you would think if you're part of zone 3 that you would have the highest chance of working in the industry. But what you'll find is that segment of the Venn diagram is going to have the most unemployed first ADs. And what production cities do we have that reside outside of Southern California or New York City proper? Albuquerque, Austin, Texas, Chicago, San Francisco, New Orleans, Atlanta, Miami, Orlando, Wilmington, North Carolina,
Yep.
Cleveland, Ohio, Washington, DC.
Austin. Austin's in
I
there
mean,
now.
those are the principal production cities. St. Louis, and then soon, not Oklahoma City, but there's going to be a production infrastructure push in Oklahoma in the next 5 years, where they're going to put in something like 17 sound stages, and a number of different studio corporations are going to move into Oklahoma for production in the Midwest. So it seems like a lot, 12 cities, but in 12 cities, if you've got a couple of dozen ADs in every one of those cities, now you're talking about upwards of 300 people that need work. And Albuquerque might have one start per season, a feature in the spring and a feature in the fall, or a one TV show a year. So that can be like 6 people get a job, and then the other 18 people have nothing to do. And the fact that jurisdiction 1 is closed to everybody but people that work in Los Angeles gives you some idea of this exclusivity and the division of labor that they're trying to create here, so that there's a vast number of ADs in the Southern California market. And that doesn't include San Diego, by the way. San Diego is outside of that jurisdiction.
Yes, it is.
So if do you happen to know the active roster of Los Angeles right now? How many ADs, first and seconds,
No,
they
it keeps
got out
changing.
there?
No,
I
it
mean,
keeps
it could be
changing.
thousands of them.
Yes, it is. Well, a lot of them have left. So from what I've heard,
you can see why they might
they
want
moved
to
to
close
Atlanta.
their. Yeah, you could see why they might want to close their new membership borders, if you will, to people rushing into Los Angeles trying to get a job, because the people that are there already that have a strategic and legal, if you will, right to work there, might not be able to find work in their own city of jurisdiction, as opposed to being out in zone 3. So they're really kind of keeping the herd from shifting around too much around the country, and trying to keep everybody that are working in these hot zones employed in one way, shape, or form, so that we don't get inundated in one particular market, because everybody might be tempted to shift to go to Los Angeles or shift to go to Atlanta when they see that the work starts increasing in one of those hot zones. And the thing of that is it's kind of seasonal or fashionable in a way. It's like, for a period of about, I don't know, in Orlando, it seems like from 85 to 95, and then it kind of dwindled off for the next maybe 8 years. Orlando was a hotspot, and it seemed like Orlando was going to have work forever in the feature film and television industries, and it's all gone now. So, the people that were working here at the time had plenty of work to do, but now, and we probably raised our per capita number of ADs in this area based on the work that was coming in. Now that there isn't that much work coming in, whatever that roster was for Central Florida, they're not working unless they change their jurisdiction and somehow be able to migrate to
Right.
another production city or production zone. So
It went to Atlanta. Okay, so here's the problem though. So we have the QL lists based on 3 separate areas. Within those 3 separate areas, there's also QL lists on what kind you're shooting in. So there's a feature film one, or we call it features. There's commercials, QL list. There is live action, which is sports. There is scripted, and there is talk show game shows. So you're talking now, you separated them even more. So everyone is pretty much isolated unless you can, once again, jump and have multiple categories or multiple QL lists that you're on. That is the only way where you could start shooting around the country, Fortunately, I was on several of them, and I've shot in 48 states in this country. So without that, I would have been isolated to just New York when I started. So that's what that is. Any questions on any of that? Because then I'm going to move on to the DGA training program if you guys want to learn about that real quick. I'm going to make it real short because
What do you
there's so many
think?
nuances. You guys are so quiet. Anybody here looking to be an AD, first of all, or am I talking to all cinematographers?
We
No,
got
you're
Alejandro here
talking to
specifically.
director.
Okay, well, I can tell you about a director because I'm a DGA director too. So, okay, so let's talk about the DGA training program. So, they only let in a limited number of candidates in the program, and I'll get to that in 1 second. How many? Because it's going to shock you. There is between 300 to 350 plus that apply every year. Guess how many they get in? Guess how many they pick?
30?
30? Okay, it's a good guess.
3.
Good guess. It's between 5 and
5.
7.
Oh,
That's it.
5.5.
6.
I know. I'm just pulling your leg.
It's true. It's typically around 6. That's it. There are some restrictions and there are some requirements. First of all, you have to be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident of the U.S. You have to have the program is 2 years long. You cannot get out of it once you're in it. It's not a good thing to do to leave it. There is no application fee, so anybody can put in an application if you satisfy these requirements. You do not have to have experience in filmmaking, or you do not have to be a film crew member at any time. So anybody walking off the street can technically apply. You have to be 21 years or older, so no teenagers, thank God. Yeah, no experience is necessary, so they're not looking at that. And then once you do get into the program, if you are selected, to go through the application process, first of all, it's there's a little bit you got to learn there. First of all, phase 1 is there's an online testing, which takes part in different cities around the U.S. So depending on where you live, you have to find your own transportation and housing to that city to take the test. I have to tell you, I have done this training program once prior to me getting into the guild. It was not a nice experience. It was very difficult and very frustrating because I didn't make it. So I took the test. I had to fly to Chicago on my own money to take the test. And it was like in the middle, late January. So it was negative 20 degrees out. And it was miserable. I was shaking as I was trying to fill out the form. And I'm from New York, so I'm used to cold, but that was a little colder than I was expecting.
Yeah.
After that, there is phase 2 is an interview. The first interview, There is 2 interviews, and this interview is to go over your test results if you pass the test. It's also to one-on-one interview with consultants who are going to help you in the second interview, which is technically the final interview. And this one takes about a half-hour time frame, and you have to travel to one of the DGA headquarters in Los Angeles or New York City. Once again, on your own dime. Okay. And then phase 3 is the serious interview. This is where you really have a legitimate shot of getting to be one of those 5 to 7 selected candidates. And there are 20 candidates chosen for this interview, phase 3. You're going to go and be interviewed before the board of trustees of the Directors Guild of America. And they are going to tell you whether or not, after it's done, if you got selected. Now, here's the bad thing. If you didn't get selected, you don't ever get a call. So you're kind of like in limbo. I was kind of shocked when I heard that too, but I was like, okay, well,
Can you start? Can
they're
you
the
start?
boss.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you start over? Like, can you redo it another time?
Yes, there is no minimum or maximum times. I had somebody apply 7 times. A friend of mine still never got in. He actually
Oh.
got in by taking those 7 times in 7 years and getting his days, his work days. So
He used his application days as qualifying days.
he kept trying and trying, and he's like, I'm going to make it this year. I'm going to get in this year. I'm like, okay, fine. And we were both going through the process. I think I was about a year ahead of him. And yeah, we both tried it. And neither of us got into the DGA training program. I do know one person who has, and they got in on the second try, which I was thrilled. And now they're working in LA actually, I think they're UPM by now. So I haven't talked to them in a little while. The deadline is December 1st of mostly every year. Within that, give it take a couple weeks, but it's usually December 1st. And the whole process starts in January of the phases, and then you get in usually in the springtime. And then 2 years from that, you're required to commit. So that is pretty much the process. Any questions on that? Because then I want to go over one more thing. Okay, so let's talk. Yes.
Can you speak to the criteria then? Because you're talking about how a candidate doesn't have to have any film experience.
Oh, that's my next thing.
They don't have to have a resume. They don't have to have a lot of the
yes,
things
they
that
do.
you would expect in the job selection process. So then what is the criteria that they're looking for? Are they looking for a certain kind of personality?
Okay, you jumped the
kind
gun.
of base?
That's my next thing.
Okay.
All right, so here is the criteria for your application. Okay, like Mike said, and I said, you don't have to work in the film industry, but here's what you have to have. And I'm going to read this list because it's more than I thought it was. First of all, you have to be able to provide the initial payment. Okay, so the initial payment right now is $2,600. And then after that, you have to commit that you sign a paper that you could pay this amount in the application. Okay. The second thing is it is $50 minimum per quarter if you don't work. If you do work, there's a certain percentage of how much money you take in gross wise that you pay in addition to the $50 if you're under a certain amount of money. And I can't say what these numbers are because this is all what they figure out. But if you qualify, and let's just say the amount is $500 fee. If you go over the $500 fee, then the $50 is waived. How nice of them. Okay. So the amount could vary depending on what you shoot. Like if you work a feature, obviously your fee is going to be huge for that quarter, as if you work a 2-day commercial. You might not even hit that mark. So you might only pay $50 for the quarter. Okay. Let's just say you didn't work for the rest of the, 3 months. So that's the first thing you got to sign. The second thing is you need endorsement. You need letters written on their personal stationery from 3 current members of the DGA in the same category that you were applying for. And typically you apply for second AD. That's what most, I would say 96% will go for in the beginning, unless you've worked, a lot, but you want to go for something of that fact. Okay. The third thing is you need to submit a resume. It does not have to be a film resume, but it has to be a resume of some of your past work history. They do not say how many years, months, or days that history has to be from. But let's just think about this for a second. You want to put as much as possible on there to show that you can take the responsibility of being in the DGA. Okay. After that, number 4 is you need a 1-page typed single-spaced biography of yourself in third person. So they could use that later, and they can use it as material for either marketing, or they could put it on a website or anything of that sort. Okay. So they don't want the I did this, I did that. They want Gerald did so-and-so. Okay. They need your current home address, and you have to have a home address. If you're homeless, you cannot apply, because they need to make sure that they can send the dues bills somewhere eventually. They've thought this out. Okay. Number 6 is contact information. So they want your full name, legal name. They want your aliases names, because they will check these out. And they want obviously all the other contact information from you. You guys can figure that out. And then everything that I have talked about so far has to be notarized. No exceptions. Even your address. So you need to write it on a piece of paper, type it out, and hand it, and have them notarize it with a driver's license or a passport. And you even have to have your email address and your phone numbers notarized. So you have to bring proof that those are yours and not somebody else's. Okay. So once you're approved, then, you can start going into the application process. And those are the same things basically that you will get once you are approved to get into the DGA. You still need those too. So, all right. So the initiation fee, like I said, is about $2,600. It was. It has changed recently, and I just realized this because when I started back in 2003, I paid $2,600. I am looking at a chart here because I pulled it up because it floored me that I had to write this down, because you won't believe me. The initiation fee right now for a second AD is $7,700. I'm like, whoa. I was shocked. To get in as a director for features, it's $13,500. This is just the initiation fee, which means you don't get it back. And if you're looking for a director in commercials, documentaries, low budget features, staff, that is $3,500. So it's actually less to be a director in commercials than it would be to be an AD. So very interesting. And of course, there's other things out there too. So
are you saying that the initiation fees for the DGA are non-refundable even if you don't get accepted into the program?
No, this is after you've been accepted.
After you've been accepted,
Yes,
right? Okay.
yes. So after you've been accepted, all your paperwork has been approved, and you're going to get your card in the mail. Then what happens is you have to pay the fee. And there is payment plans. So they do have a payment plan.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, because I mean, who's going to strike a check for $7,700?
Well, yeah.
That's impressive if you can.
In contrast, the IATSE, for those of you that are curious how this works, the first card that I qualified for in the IA was actually awarded to me. The last card that I bought in the IATSE was my Los Angeles credentials, And the initiation at that point in time was $4,800 and change. And that was in 2000 and
As we can see, it's gone up.
sorry, I got into the IA initially in 1993. I got into in 2004. I got into 728 at $4,800 plus.
Mm.
And they broke it up into, my first payment was I think my first payment was 2,500, and then I had to pay the balance after I got my first job. Out of my first or second round of paychecks, I had to pay the balance of that off.
Do they take it out automatically, or you had to strike a check?
No, you strike a check, because they
Yeah.
don't, the IATSE can't go in and garnish your payroll like that.
Okay.
But it's, it's really, from the outside looking in, it seems like a lot of money, but what you have to understand, what's at stake is, what's your paycheck going to be once you're a member of the union and you're on a job, because my first paycheck on a union job, after getting that 728 card at $5,000, my first week's paycheck was well over $3,000. So, that was before taxes, but still, it represents a whole different economy of scale when you've been accepted into these trade organizations and you start working under these contracts. It's a night and day, the difference in the worlds. Okay.
Oh, it's worth it.
One thing. The assessments that you were talking about, the percentages taken out of your paycheck towards your membership dues. In the last guild that I belonged to was a flat fee per quarter of only, it was $200, I think, not really expensive at all. But
Wow.
in Miami, for instance, when I had a Miami card, there was a 3% payroll assessment. So my membership in that local was contingent upon how much I was earning. And if I was on a TV show, for instance, as a department head, making, maybe $4,000 a week, that's $16,000 a month. And if you're paying a 3% assessment, if you do the math really quick, you can see, and it's quarterly. So you can take that figure, multiply it times 3, and that would be how much money I had to pay the union. And in Miami, believe it or not, it works out to be more expensive if you're working on contracted shows, more expensive than to belong to the union in Los Angeles. But the initial payment to get into the union is lower in Miami than it is in Los Angeles. So it kind of balances out in a weird way. I wanted to say about the resume, and you were talking about put as much on the resume as possible. It seems to make sense then, given the kind of job description of an assistant director specifically, that any reference that you have that's management or in some way coordinating or in some way representing that you have had responsibility for assets or logistics at a job, whether it was movie related or not, is going to present the kind of skills they're looking for. Would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. Obviously, whatever position you're going for, you want to back it up with as much experience that you have that shows that you can do that job. And you have to think about it, and you have to make yourself look good. This is like a pitch, you're sales pitching yourself right here. So they're starting you early. So you start it now, and then throughout your whole career, you're going to be doing this.
So that means that you don't have to be embarrassed to put forth a resume if you're applying to the DGA. Let's say you were a night manager at a McDonald's or a Burger King while you were going to college. That represents management of a staff, responsibility for not only the establishment and the safekeeping of the establishment, but the assets within the establishment, and accountability for the commerce that happens in those premises while you under your watch, while you're in charge. So these are all credible experiences that would apply in a situation like this. Those experiences might not help you join the set lighting technicians guild in LA, but if you're looking at being a coordinator type of person, like an assistant director can be, then these are certainly valuable skills that you shouldn't overlook when you're considering what experience to tell people you have and what to omit from your application.
Well, let's face it, the amount of film experience on your application is not going to be that big. I mean, a lot of people who apply to this training program, I would say the majority of them do have film experience, but it's mostly like student films or film festival films or independent, so most of them are not paid gigs. So therefore, you're going to put on there whatever you can. Now, I would say, like you said, is any experience that relates to being showing your character, showing your personality, showing your leadership skills, showing your social skills, showing you can, do the things that you set out to do is invaluable. And that's the stuff you want to talk about. Obviously, you're not going to have a 40-page resume of all film stuff. So use what you got, but just make sure you word it correctly so it emphasizes the point you're trying to make, and don't put anything in there that's, one, not true. Don't put anything in there, two, that's not black and white. And don't put anything in there that's vague, because it's not going to help you. You're just wasting space where you should put something in there that solidifies that you can do this and you can be in the DGA.
That's good advice. That's really good advice. And I've worked with, I think, three or four DGA trainees in my whole career. So I've met a couple and I've seen what they had to go through. But one of the things that,
It's a tough life.
yeah.
And actually, I have the rates here. Hang on
Yeah,
one
tell us what
second.
the beginning rates are for
Okay,
second
so
AD.
so the DGA training scale is you get 915 a week for the first quarter.
As a trainee.
Yeah, which means, because remember, it's 2 years. So break that up. So every 6 months. So the first 6 months you get 915 per week. In the second 6 months, so which second half of the year, you get 930. Then it jumps up to 997, which is, the third quarter. And then the fourth quarter is 1,063. And that's your salary. That's it.
And it's important to note, which I'm sure you're going to allude to, but you're placed in that situation, right? So you're saying,
Yes.
well, where's this income coming from? I don't know. Did I
Yep.
get a job? Do I have to find my own job? And the answer is no, right? They place you on different kinds of shows to give you experience. Can you shed some light on that?
Sure. So what they do is they have a schedule of what's shooting in what area you're in, because typically you'll either be in New York or LA area. And what they do is they find out what shows are going on. It could be a feature, could be commercials, it could be scripted TV, anything that requires a DGA AD. It will not be anything that requires a DGA stage manager. This is ADs only, and no associate directors. Okay, so even though those two positions are part of the guild, this is not part of the training program. So it's mostly features, commercials, and scripted TV. They will place you in those shows. Okay. Now, the thing about it is you do not have a choice. I'm just telling you now. And if you don't like it, don't ever quit. Because once you quit, you will never be able to join the DGA ever again. Even if you have 600 days on your own. So you just basically blacklisted yourself. So is it easy? No. The typical life is anywhere from 10 hours to 16 hours a day. You are at the mercy of the first AD, second AD, and the second AD. Okay, so you are considered the fourth AD. You're going to learn everything on the job. It's not going to be easy. There is no room for excuses. There is no room for mistakes or errors. And it's going to be a hands-on crash course. At least in the beginning, you will start to get the hang of it. But here's the issue, and I've worked with quite a few of them as trainees under me, is that the AD department just doesn't have the time to sit down and walk you through everything step by step, because the show is going on, okay? And no offense to the trainees, but that's the priority, Okay. Now, during lunchtime, during breaks, during, maybe before or after call and wrap, yes, they will sit down with you and go over as many things as they can. But unfortunately, it's going to be as quick as you can. So you really need to be a quick learner. You need to be able to stand up and say, hey, I need you to explain this really quick to me. That's the kind of people they're looking for. And that's the interview process and the screening process, if you want to call it, of how they pick those people. The success rate of the trainee program into the DGA and into the industry is over 98%. So they know it works. So you have to have that attitude to go in there, the positive and the aggressive, I'm not talking obnoxious, but just aggressive attitude that you will get it done. You will understand, you will learn it quickly. Yes, you're going to make mistakes. We all did, even in the beginning, but you need to absolutely learn from it and try never to make that mistake twice or more. That's what they're looking for. I'm not saying it's not impossible to get in there, but if you do get in there, your foot's in the door. Well, actually, 3/4 of your body's in the door. Okay, that foot that's sticking outside the door, yeah, don't let it keep going outside the door. Bring it in. Okay, is what I'm trying to tell you. Because if you can get into that training program, you are in the guild. The last thing I forgot to tell you is, so once you complete the DGA program for 2 years, you are automatically in the guild, as long as you can pay the money, the initiation fee, and you have all the other paperwork that you need. Once again, all that stuff I just mentioned before. And then you are considered a second AD. You're in.
You're in.
So, and I know
Sounds like-
3 people who have done it. I know one person who it was a friend of mine who actually did, but I know 3 people who have actually done it, who have gone onto my shoots from different parts of the country, and they say, "Oh, I went to the DGA training program, in 10 years ago, whatever it is." I'm like, "Oh, cool, that's cool."
Mm.
So, and they're still in it, so it's a good way to get in if you can.
It sounds like they're looking for a strong, people with a strong sense of character, that are assertive, that have a level of maturity that where they're not plagued with debilitating depression or have problems with their confidence,
Absolutely, yeah.
And
They
so
need to be a
this is-
leader.
This is probably not an individual who hasn't had a certain measure of life experience at this point. Like I don't suspect, and I've never met a DGA member or a trainee who was less than about 25 to 28 years old. They are not fresh, young, barely in their 20s individuals. I just don't see that happening, because of the pressure you're going to be under, the responsibility you're going to be saddled with, the pace that you're going to be asked to work, the hours you're going to be asked to work. Because I know that for lack of a better word, shit rolls downhill in the movie industry, and in the AD department, you're saddled with a lot of the paperwork and things that the second AD, the actual second AD has to deal with. Or the first, well, I don't know if the first AD is going to hand a trainee anything directly, but certainly the second AD. Do you have a trainee in addition to a second AD? Would that equate to a third second AD at that point?
Yeah, well, yeah, we call it the 4th AD really, because it just gets so confusing, the names. If you go outside the United States, it's first AD, second AD, and third AD, and 4th AD. It's
Yeah.
only in the United States where the third AD is called the second. And the reason why is because the second is the actual assistant to the second AD, but not to the first AD. That's the difference.
But they have the same rank in terms of the guild. They're both second assistant directors, but there's a key second and an additional second who's the second,
Right.
right?
Right. We don't use the word key. We just use second AD, and the terminology of second basically means subordinate to the second AD.
Okay.
So
Because one of
the second reports to the second AD, not to the first. Now, that's not saying that the first can't tell the second what to do, but typically they leave that to the second AD. So the first AD, if you guys don't know, is responsible for all the logistics. It's the right-hand person of the director. They're the ones that create all the initial schedules. They're the ones that make all the call times, and they're the ones that direct everything on set all the time. The second AD is the one who's responsible for all of the talent. They're responsible for creating the call sheet. They're responsible for creating the shooting schedule for that day, or for the next day. And they're also the ones who are responsible for the principal talent. The extras going onto the set. Okay, so if the first AD is in charge of the principal talent on set, then the second AD is in charge of all the extras while they're shooting. The second is in charge of all the extras while they're not shooting. And they're typically the ones that stay back at base camp and watch over whoever's not on set. And also, they're the ones who get anything at base camp or tell any of the cast, crew, or vendors what is needed at the base camp area, because base camp is typically not where the shooting location is. So there's a separation of distance there. So the second is basically the second ADs in two places at the same time. Okay, so if you understand what I'm saying there. So they need somebody else to do it. And they don't want to do a PA because they don't want to give them that kind of responsibility and that kind of control, because you'd have to increase their pay. So, and they want to keep it all in the AD department. So
But there's
that's
critical
basically the
things
order.
at stake, right? There's critical documentation like
Yes,
start work forms, contracts that have to be signed. People are cycling off the job or off the roster. They're done with their role or they're done with their day, and they have to be processed out with DGA paperwork and stuff. And that would be something they wouldn't want to give to a production assistant. who's
anybody.
learning the general
Anybody.
ropes. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the second is the one who does most of the contracts, except the principal contracts, like all the extras or supporting actors. They do all the SAG contracts. They do all the non-union talent releases for the extras. They're the ones who make sure that everyone gets the correct paperwork on set, like call sheets, shooting schedules, like at call and wrap. They'll give all those paperwork out to the people, typically, like I said, at base camp. And the second, a lot of times will just be that voice or that intermittent person from anybody at base camp talking to the set. They'll go through the second. Okay, like say a makeup artist wants to know, okay, how is the principal talent doing on set? The second will talk to the second, which the second will talk to the first, and then the answer will be relayed back. So that's basically it. I mean, everyone has their own set little role of what they do, and that's why it runs so well, because the job responsibilities are pretty separated between I'm going to call it 3 ADs. So nothing falls between the cracks. So, first AD is responsible for XYZ, second AD is responsible for this, and second is responsible for this. And the second AD is also responsible for checking all the paperwork, the contracts, deal memos, whatever gets signed, or if you need to take photos, we do that a lot for what the talent is wearing per day. So they always take some kind of, it used to be Polaroids, but now it's digital photos. So the second AD checks all of that paperwork, because now once they've checked it and they've handed it off to say if it's a commercial, the advertising agency, or if it's a feature, it goes to the production coordinator, then that second AD is now responsible for that paperwork. Their name is now on it instead of the second, because they have a higher title. So yeah, there's a hierarchy there, and the trainee is the one who basically jumps between the second AD and the second on set. Typically, most trainees do not go to any of the prep meetings, or rehearsals or tech scouts, anything like that. Trainees are typically only on shoot days. So there's no real point for them to go there, because there's not much time to teach them anything, because the schedules are so tight that the crew only needs to be there for that, and then they learn everything else, like I said, mostly on set.
principal photography only.
That is correct. There
And they
are,
might get yanked, right? The guild might yank them off an existing show and
Yes,
move
they
them
have
to
done
another
that.
show. So
Yep.
really their job is to learn process, not the specifics of any particular show in the event they get yanked and put somewhere else.
Correct. They're learning mostly it's the paperwork in the beginning. And for the first quarter, the second quarter, that's why the pay increases, because the responsibility that they are required to do increases dramatically. So then eventually in quarter 4, they are acting as the second AD. In quarter 3, they act as the second with the additional second there. Now there are some times where they will actually be placed as the second, even though they're still the trainee in quarter 3 on a shoot where there is no second. Now they're being thrown basically into the fire.
Yeah.
So there's nothing better. And I know you guys, some might disagree with me, and I can tell you for a fact, 100%, there is nothing better to learn than when you're thrown in the fire, because it's do or die, crash or burn. It's like, and I've done it most of my career because I never went to film school. I told you I went to college for IT. So I learned everything on the job. And I can tell you, I've made as many mistakes as anybody could ever possibly do. But I learned from it, and I said to myself, okay, you screwed up once, don't ever do it again. and I've been pretty good at that. So we'll see. Any questions? I know I went over a lot of material, but
What do you
you
think?
guys, too easy.
Are you scared yet, Alejandro?
Let me tell you, here's the thing, and I'm going to give you guys a little side story here. I was a cinematographer for like 5 years, okay, on set, working with the big cameras, stuff like that, stuff that Mike's very familiar with. And after a while, I got tired of it because I didn't want to carry those cases around. And I'm looking at this guy because I was, next to camera 100% of the time. And I saw this guy running around and telling everybody what to do, which was the first AD. And I said to myself, I want to be that guy. And I did. 2 years later, I did. So it's possible.
It's a benefit, though. I think some of the best first ADs that I ever worked with were ones that had done a variety of different jobs on the set, so that
Agreed.
If your jurisdiction is the entire crew and what they're doing in an effort to manufacture this film or this TV show, there's a disconnect if you're dealing with people that you have to help coordinate and to disseminate information to and track their progress with their own job assignments and responsibilities, if you really don't know what their job entails. So it's a good idea to have some of that experience as background to help you when you're managing, because you're responsible for them regardless. But if you understand where their job responsibilities lie, where their anxieties might come from, where their needs are based, what their demands might be, you can help them more effectively. Because the thing that an assistant director is doing more than I think anything else is they're understanding the needs of the show. They're applying the talent and the qualifications of a crew towards that objective. And then they're managing in a timely way, dividing up responsibilities and objectives on a day-by-day basis, and then keeping everybody on schedule by monitoring what they're doing, keeping track of your progress, asking you, hey, if you're behind in getting your work done, how can we help you? Is there a way that we can adjust the schedule or adjust the budget, get you more help or give you more time to do these things? Because ultimately we need to have this thing done by X and such a date in a certain fashion in order for this to advance into the post-production phase and beyond. So the ADs have a huge responsibility, and the more you know about the people that are helping you make this movie, the more you can help them help you. So it's really an interesting, and the chain of command is to watch this from a distance. I've never been in the AD department at all, but I've worked on enough shows to see how they function, how they operate. And it is really quite an assembly line. I mean, if you're working at a backlot at a major studio, for instance, the first AD is inside the building. He's with the camera. And then you have a second AD that's running back and forth between inside the building and outside the building, taking
Base camp.
handoffs from a second AD who's working from the trailers at base camp where the actors are getting housed and fed and rested, and he or she is bringing those individuals to the stage. The second AD is bringing them into the stage, handing them off onto the set where the first AD is coordinating the activity, and the DGA trainee is trying to shadow somebody and watch this whole process, learn the paperwork, and master the environment. The ecosystem is like culture shock to the nth degree until you're comfortable with the way the system works, how the information flows, how the responsibility works, how the hierarchy works. And then you have to get over the shock and awe of being at, for instance, a major lot at a major studio and learning your way around and learning how to get in and out of buildings and getting credentialed and dealing with, crew people in base camp in particular, dealing with the Teamsters and where they're putting the trailers and where they're putting the trucks. And it's a huge logistical nightmare if there wasn't stratification in the responsibilities and hierarchy in the chain of command. And you must follow the chain of command, because otherwise the wheels come off the wagon and this whole thing is all for naught, because you won't get this thing accomplished with its level of complexity without everybody knowing what their job is and staying in their lane and making sure that they are accountable, effective, getting their work done on a timely basis and reporting to the people that need to know, this is done, what next? This is done, what next? It's really it's quite a thing to behold from the outside looking in. And if you have the mental toughness for it, I think that the assistant director core, I mean, you can be an AD your whole career, right, Gerald? I mean, you never have to go anywhere but within the context of that department. But how many people would you say transcend the assistant director ranks and become an official director of the project?
Very few.
Very few.
Yeah, it's very hard to make that jump because, like I said, once you're known for a position, usually you stay in that position. But, becoming an assistant director, yes, you do hang around the director a lot. You hang around the cinematographer a lot. But the ability to actually run the show and the ability to take a script creatively and make it reality is very difficult for a lot of people. You need those unique individuals. That's why there's not as many directors as there are grips, electrics, PAs, coordinators, ADs. And frankly, you only need one director per show. You can have multiple positions available for multiple people, but director, there's only one. So it's hard to make that jump. But it has been done here and there. A lot of the time, the majority of the ADs actually go into production management, UPM, or producer, because it's an easier way to go, because then they want to do their own projects. They want to create their own, productions or shoots, and they want to take their concepts, ideas, or scripts, and they want to make them. So that's why the logical move is actually towards producer, the business side more than the creative side.
Is it fair to say that what the assistant directors are doing doesn't often get credited as being a creative position, and people don't see it as particularly a glamorous position, in contrast to the ego and the individual that gets credited with the success of the whole ball of wax? Because the director really is sitting at the pinnacle. I really should say standing on the shoulders of a number of individuals that without those people in place doing the jobs that they do, that director would be utterly ineffectual at creating.
That is correct.
And I say this because I think there might not be anything quite so gratifying and possibly addictive of being able to take a simple document like a script and break it down into functional, digestible chunks that can be debated, updated, modified, realized from virtual, from a simple idea manifested into a physical object, a set, a costume, an artifact, and then deal with and coordinate individuals that are going to come in who are going to perform these roles in a script, and bringing all of these resources together in the time it takes to plan it, in the time it takes to deconstruct the necessary components of everything, including breaking down the script and making sure you don't forget about anything. Don't forget about a prop or a piece of wardrobe, or don't forget about an additional special piece of gear you might need on one particular day out of 144 days that you're equally responsible for. Making sure you don't miss a detail, don't miss any piece of information, and bring all of that together into a finished product. I think that that in itself would be one of the most gratifying feelings you could have. And I don't know that any other position is going to offer you much more in terms of gratification. Even the director, him or herself, I don't think, because they have the knowledge that there would be no way they could do this without the help of everybody else. There's no way.
Well, I agree. And the AD is, especially the first AD, is the one who's, well, basically it's the captain of the ship. The director's the admiral, but a lot of the admirals, as you notice, are figureheads. They don't do as much as the captain does. The only thing about the captain is you have to be a multitasker, because you are going to get bombarded as soon as you walk on set. I don't know how many times as a first AD I got questions before I even got out of the car. They're like knocking on my window going, "What are we doing next? Can we wear blue?" It's like, can I park, first? But, the first AD, the thing that I like about it is, well, okay, I like being the boss. I'm not going to lie. The second thing is it is gratifying. You are the person who is typically, I'm going to use this word loosely, you are the expert there of everything that's going on, because you are in charge of everything that's going on at all times. And I don't know how many times I've gotten my lunches ruined because they need me for this, or they need me to answer that, or they want to know what's going on next, or they want to know, can they wrap out what we just shot? You are constantly on call. And you know what? I didn't have a problem with that, because I knew that it's my show. I run it the way I want to run it. Just like every director out there has their own style, so do the ADs. And everybody who's known me since I started 35 years ago has said Gerald is the most fairest but firmest AD you'll ever meet.
Fair but firm.
Because I am, as soon as camera is, as soon as call starts, I'm sorry, it's business. Because my responsibility there is not to make friends. My business there is not to have a good time. My business there is not to go play on whatever it is we're at, or meet these famous people or famous directors. My business is to get this job done.
It's a
But
responsibility.
it's a huge responsibility, but I love it. And I used to love it as much as I still do now. But the other thing is, I will listen to what you have to say. Now, granted, they all know that my decision is final, and don't question it, because this is why I'm in this position. This is why, because I was the one that was hired. This is because I'm the one that got called to do this. So I don't care if you're a second AD that has more experience than me when I was the first. I don't care if you're a director. I've told some of the most famous directors, get off my set, because I'm not ready for you yet. And they look at me going, do you know who I am? And I'm like, yeah, I know who you are. I'm pretty sure I know who you are. But at this point, I don't really care. So let me finish what I need to do. And then when I need you, I'll call you. I'll send my AD to go get you in your trailer. And they look at me going, and then they think about it and they go, oh, yeah, okay. And they turn around and they leave. And I've done this with more than one famous directors. And, but you got to understand, you have to have that kind of personality. You can't go in there and be meek and timid. Everybody will walk all over you, and you will get so confused, and you will give the wrong information, and that will destroy your reputation. And your reputation, as Mike can tell you 100%, is everything. You don't have to have the highest skill set. You don't have to have the most knowledge. You don't have to have the best looking person. You don't have to have the best clothes. But one thing you have to do is make sure that you understand what it takes to get things done and get it done in a timely and effective manner and respect each other. Always. I don't care. I have worked with directors that are screaming in my face, going, "You're worthless. You're dirt." Okay, well, you have your opinion. But guess what? I'm still the first AD. And they look at me going, "Okay." And they'll walk away. So you have to stand your ground too when you are right. Now, if you're wrong, admit you're wrong, apologize, and move on. Just like anything else. I mean, there is a respect code there that needs to be upheld all the time. I don't care if it's a PA. I don't care if it's the craft service lady. I don't care if it's a vendor. Everybody deserves respect there. I don't care if they're screaming like a baby and they're 48 years old. You still got to give them respect. Find out what's wrong. Let's find a solution and let's move on. That's my theory. And everybody knows when I've been on set, that's what happens. So
I think
I've only
it's,
made one mistake, and that was in the beginning. I called somebody out on set, and I shouldn't have. And I learned from that. Once again, I only make a mistake once, and I learned from that because I got taken aside and said, you really shouldn't have done that. And I'm like, done what? And I said, you called out somebody right on set, and I'm like, oh, crap. And
Yeah.
I took that person, as soon as I could, I took that person aside and said, and I apologized, and I said it won't ever happen again, and we shook hands, and that was it. So,
that's a delicate dance that you have to do. You talked about being in charge, and I think that within the context of the director's department, I think that's perfectly true. But you're not in charge in a way of other departments. Like, for instance, you're not going to go to the grip department and start taking over and saying, okay, now we're going to do this and we're going to do that, because you have jurisdictions and lines that can't be crossed. What you have to have is a personality that can then negotiate with another strong-minded individual and say, look, I know the challenges that you're facing. I know I know the implications of what we're asking you. And I'm not trying to minimize the fact that you have concerns or that you have problems, but you have to get your job done because I'm responsible for the product that your effort will bear. And if you're not up to the task, you need to let us know now so we can get someone in here who can do it. I'm not going to step into your department and start telling your guys how to start hashing out the responsibilities, because I'm not in local 80, but I'm in the DGA, and the DGA is responsible for you doing your job correctly. We're supposed to make sure we hire the best we can obtain in terms of crew, and then manage your effort effectively so that you have job satisfaction, you maintain your integrity and respect. But I also get what I need to get, because what I'm asking you for is what the director wants or what the producer wants. And so we're all working together in that kind of an effort. And you sometimes have to balance the power and the mindset of some very intelligent but abrasive individuals who
all the
also
time.
are trying to do a job, and remember that they're trying to take pride in what they do as well. But it's all contingent upon everybody performing at a very high level and doing it in a way that allows, that acknowledges the AD's planning and logistics, because it's a very delicate balance. That plan is a very delicate balance, and things have to happen like clockwork in order for us to get through even a single day of production, let alone the entire shoot. So the ADs have a lot of responsibility. What I'm hoping you can do for us now, Gerald, is just like take us through a day in the life of a first AD, a day in the life of a second AD. Give us a sense of what that ecosystem is, what that life feels like.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. The prep days are a lot easier, as they say, because you're a little bit more relaxed. You're usually in a hotel or you're usually in some kind of office, sitting around a table and basically hashing it out like you would if you were doing a table read. You go through the script with usually the department heads are there. Uh, Typically, there's no talent there unless the talent has some vested interest in the production side of it. So like the talent could be I'm just going to throw it there. Say a Clint Eastwood, who could be the actor, principal actor, and or the director at the same time, but 99% of the time, there's no talent involved with this. It's all crew. You sit there, you talk about what's going on logistically, you show them the schedule, you show them a lot of the paperwork that's going on, and you just make sure that everything is taken care of. You go through department, scene by scene, department by department, and it takes a while. I mean, you're talking minimum 8-hour day just to make sure that everything is complete. And the first AD, this is a good time for you to, well, not only take notes, but it's a good time to understand what all the department heads want. The power struggle here is in the prep phase. I'm just going to pre-production. I'm just going to call it prep. In the prep phase is like they all have a power struggle. Like, what can I get over on him? Here's what the power struggle really is. There is none because the first AD says what it is, and you guys, as the department heads, just go do it. And I don't know how many times I've told them to shut up, turn around, and go do it, because you have to set it straight from the beginning because you're the one in charge. So if you are, like I said, the timid and the weak, you will get run over and production will not go according to the way you want it to go. And it should be your schedule and your determination of what needs to be done in what time frame. Usually we'll do that. Then after that, the AD will sit down with the director and the second AD, if there is one there. Sometimes second ADs don't come, or seconds don't come till shoot days. But if the second AD does get a day or two of prep, this is a good time to start making sure they're there, because you don't have to try to reiterate everything, because obviously something always gets lost in that. So they are there, and by DGA rules, they do get prep days. So then you start going over, shooting order. What are we shooting? What day? What logistically could be there? A lot of times I like to invite the DP there and make sure the DP's there, the location manager's there, the production coordinator, the UPM, a lot of the department heads that are going to make decisions about the logistics of the shoot. No, I don't need the makeup department there. I don't need wardrobe department there. Those are stuff that they can do during the prep when we actually start prepping the show. This is all sort of what I would call pre-prep. And then, of course, we'll start looking at it, and that's when the second AD starts go schedule the shoot. They'll start working and doing a preliminary in, like, say, Movie Magic scheduling. They'll put together something that's a rough draft, and of course, they'll show it to the first AD, and they'll either approve it or not approve it, or go have a second meeting and then look at it. Okay, so let me move on, because I could take a long time about each of the little intricacies of every day. So next time, let's just say, okay, we got the schedule approved. So now let's go to a tech scout, okay? Because, and I'm talking more on the bigger side of production here, national commercials, feature films, scripted TV. I'm not talking about the smaller things or like sports or something like that, because that's totally a different world, okay? So now let's talk about tech scout. So now we'll take all the department heads, most of them. We don't need wardrobe there. Like I said before, we don't need makeup there. Craft service, stuff like that, we don't need. So we'll all go out to the locations and then run through all of them per a 1 day only, as least amount of time as possible, so we can get back and start thinking about more of the logistics. So we'll go to every location. Typically, we'll try and schedule the tech scout according to the time frame that we're looking at shooting in that day. Not necessarily, like in the order of which day it is, but in time frame of day. So if I'm going to say go to this pool scene and we're going to shoot it at, afternoon, we try and tech scout it in the afternoon, so we can give the DP some basic knowledge of where the sun is, and what the look is and the angles. And so we try to help out every department we can as an AD department to make sure that we're giving them as many tools as possible so they can figure out their department. Because like Mike said, yeah, once I hand it off to you, I don't want to touch it. Okay. The AD has enough stuff to do than worry about what you're doing in your own department. When you get to this kind of level, there's no crossover unless there's absolutely requested by some department head, say, hey, I really need help with this. but typically we leave alone. We give them the direction we want. We give them the logistics we want. We give them the requirements that we want, and we say, go do it. And then they're going to give us, hopefully, the amount of time it's going to take reasonably. Doesn't always work. And that's when the AD has to step in there and put your foot down and saying, hey, you told me you needed an hour. It's an hour and 6 minutes right now. So tell me, honestly, how long is this going to take? Because right now we need to shoot. The director's screaming, the producer's screaming. So when are we going to get this done? And if the DP says, oh, I need another hour, the answer is no. You have 20 minutes and we're going to shoot in 20 minutes. And if it looks like crap, it's your fault.
Or we have a quick meeting and a powwow and we
Yes,
decide
and
how to
that was my
manage our
second thing.
expectations.
Right. And
say,
if the
"Look,
answer is no,
I thought
then
I
yeah.
could do this in an hour. I can't. What can we do that will get us as close as possible to the original solution in now the current time that's allotted?" And so if that's where it's good to have a plan going in, and you try to stick to that plan as best you can, because it is an integrated and very time sensitive process. But sometimes you're going to hit a situation where for one reason or another, we just didn't with it. We don't have a crystal ball and we didn't see it it didn't play out exactly the way we thought it would. And in that situation, that's when it takes all of the experience of everybody to bear on this problem and come up with a solution that's going to be equally satisfying to the director and the producers, the people that are paying for this thing, so that they don't feel like they got shortchanged in the process by somebody underestimating what was required or doing a bad job. And then everybody wants to start pointing fingers, because that can happen really quickly and in an ecosystem of personalities that don't get along really well. So you're also a mediator, aren't you? Between a lot of
Yes. Oh, yeah. We're a whole bunch of things. Psychologists too. And so what happens there is, if they say they can't get it done in the allotted time that you think it is, then yes, we have a meeting. We discuss a solution. Excuse me. And most ADs will have a backup. So they'll say, okay, here's what we'll do. You need an hour. So go take the hour, get it done right, which is what the director wants. And then as the AD, we'll take another camera crew and we're going to go shoot some B-roll stuff somewhere else. So we're basically taking that time frame that they're going to work on some, and we'll get something else shot. So it doesn't take away from the end of the day stuff that we needed. It's not missing now. We actually did shoot it. We just changed the order. So a good AD will always have a backup plan, at least one or two that they can always rely on. And I don't know how many times that has saved me as being an AD, because you don't want 50, 200 people standing around waiting for something to happen because they can't shoot. So what you do is you have an alternative, and that has worked many, many times in my favor, and also makes you look good, and then you get a good reputation, and then they call you back. So that's always a good thing too.
as a problem
Okay, so
solver, right? As a
oh,
problem.
there is so many adjectives you can call EDs. And yes, there are some bad ones too. So I've been called many things too. Okay, so now on a day shoot, let's go to past Tech Scout. Of course, then we'll have more pre-pro meetings about what we discussed on the Tech Scout, what we discussed in the early things, and then we'll start formulating the plan to let's start shooting. Okay, and those meetings could be anywhere from 1 day to weeks. It depends on how much time you have according to the schedule from the producer, or the production manager, whichever it is. So let's talk about shooting. So shooting is, you arrive there. Of course, locations is the first ones that arrive there, location department. They're going to set up the cones. They're going to set up signage so you don't get lost. Nowadays navigation helps. We didn't have navigation back when we started.
Yeah.
So we had all these, maps on copied Xeroxed, we call it, or
Stapled to the
written
call sheet.
directions. And I don't know how, and I don't know how many times I got lost going, I don't see this. Oh, wait, I have it upside down. Anyway, so, the locations department's there. Then obviously the office staff, production coordinator, office PAs are there next. Then also maybe some of the set PAs will be office PAs in the beginning to help set everything up where we need it. ADs get there, first AD gets there, second AD gets there. Then we start talking about, what we're doing during this day. We have a big safety meeting with everybody involved. I'm talking everybody involved. to make sure everything stays safe, because that's the number one priority, no matter what. Then after that, the AD starts telling everybody, okay, so we're going to we're going to roll camera at X hour. So everybody knows how much time they have. And of course, if anybody has any concern, this is the time to voice your concern. And if that is true, then the AD will figure out alternatives, like what would we need to do. I don't know how many times I've worked on a shoot and, say for example, we had a camera problem. The camera just didn't work. We couldn't get it to work. So we had another one brought in. We call it flown in. So the AD would have to figure out a solution. What are we going to do? Well, you know what? We could do rehearsals. So let's just rehearse not only just scene 1 that we're going to shoot, but let's rehearse scene 1, 2, and 3. So by the time the camera gets here and they, build the camera, load the camera, prep the camera, set up the camera, guess what? We're ready to shoot. So then we'll just shoot scene 1, scene 2, and scene 3. Maybe one rehearsal each, because they already know pretty much the action. They know what they're doing. They know where they're going. All the departments are familiar with all the scenes. So this is an alternative once again. So these are the things that you have to think about. You can't just stay rigid in your thinking of how to shoot. It's not just A, B, C, D. You might think you want to do it that order, but life sometimes, changes it. So you have to be extremely flexible, extremely adaptable. And the most important thing is quick. You have to be quick about it. So you can't go, you know what? Give me half an hour. I'll think about this. No, you need to think about it in literally like a couple minutes. Because that's what makes you look really strong to everybody. And that's one of the respect factors that I've gotten repeatedly over my career, is that I am an extremely quick thinker, and finding alternatives so we don't waste time or money, or have the producer have a heart attack or something like that, because they'll freak out when these things happen. And then of course after that, after the shoot days are over, then pretty much wrap is left to the office, and you're done. So then you move on to the next project, But of course, like I said, there's a lot of things in between there per day, but I really don't want to get into it because it'll confuse you, and you probably won't understand half of it. Mike would, but you wouldn't.
I can think of one particular situation that happens all the time, especially down here in Florida, that can send you into spirals of rethinking and reallocating your schedule, is weather and rain, and what you do when you're on location and you were hoping for a bright day, a sunny day, and all of a sudden the clouds roll in and there's lightning and you need to do something. You need to go to
Shoot
one of your
interiors.
backup plans, your cover sets.
I shoot interiors.
Yeah.
We switch the days. I don't know how many times the second AD wants to kill me, because change it, and of course the production coordinator's going, you are so dead to me right now, because changing the schedule on the fly is, well, I hate to tell you, but it's a fact of life here in this business. Anything can change anytime for any reason, and guess what? You have no control over it. Nobody does. But what you can do is react to it positively, because it still has to get done. Now, whether it's getting done today, tomorrow, or next week, it's irrelevant. It's going to get done. So you have to think, okay, well, if I can't get it done tomorrow, the interiors, and we could just flip flop it. So let's do them today. And tomorrow's supposed to be sunny, so we'll do the exteriors tomorrow. But you have to have that ability to make sure you can communicate that to everybody in a positive manner and not make it look like it's a burden.
Yeah.
So once again, that's the salesperson in you, that you have to sell it to everybody, whether they like it or not. They're going to do it. But if you make it a positive spin on it and it looks like it's something quick-witted, they're going to be thinking, oh yeah, that's a great idea, let's go do that, instead of going, oh my god, I don't want to do that. How much work that's going to be. Guess what? It's all work, and that's why we get paid to do. So, suck it up and just go do it. That's my other famous line.
It really doesn't help
I
to
don't
start
care.
stomping around and telling everybody how displeased you are with the sudden turn of events, and it's not good for
Yes.
morale either. You
And
just gotta
screamers
suck
don't
it
work
up.
either.
Yeah.
I know too many ADs who just scream it and think they're, at this high pedestal. You're not. Okay. Yes, you are the leader. Yes, you are the one with the power, but don't let it go to your head, because once again, you have to show that respect factor. You always have to show respect to your fellow crew member or cast member, because it's everybody's. It's a team effort. We all have to work together to get this done, and that's what you signed up for. If you want a individual type thing, then go be an accountant. That's an
Yeah,
individual
go
job, right? Nobody talks to you. Or be an editor,
So
which, by the way,
the
I
assistant,
don't ever want to do.
we
I've done it
have a
twice,
couple
and
of
I'm like,
editors here, so let's be.
yes, I know, and I
That's
know, and
me.
I know lots of professional editors. I'm like, going, thank God it's you, and not me, because I
And
tried it and I couldn't hack it.
for the benefit of our aspiring directors who think that,
Yes,
they need to pursue that right away and that they're going to be doing that right away.
sure.
I think being an assistant director, I think for some individuals, I think the assistant director position might be a natural fit for a lot of people and a lot of personalities because you're still close to the project, you're still close to the creativity of the project, but what you might have is a true affinity for the logistics of managing all of the components of a functioning film project. And, at the end of the day, I mean, the whole reason why a producer can get away with, giving the director's role to the idiot nephew of the executive producer is not because that nephew is a super talented prodigy that is undiscovered and needs to be given this opportunity. It's because once that individual is mounted on the pedestal of the director's role, it's everybody beneath that individual that's making this project happen economically, feasibly, logistically, creatively. And so there are so many levels to this, and the assistant director's department really does segue into a number of different opportunities like location managing, production managing, um, and directing, although you're saying it's kind of rare that that happens, but producing, wouldn't you say producing is a
Mhm.
viable path as well for a first
Yeah,
AD?
most of them go to producer.
Which means you go boom, you go right to the top of the hierarchy, and
Yeah,
now you're
producers are number
producing
one.
the thing.
Yeah,
And
producers
if
ahead
you're
of
a
everything.
strong producer with a good sense of how to put these kinds of things together and be responsible for the money, and yet still be able to manage the personalities, and then you're picking the director for the job, and then you're going to become the director, one of the director's key, consultants, kind of whispering in their ear sometimes, like, do you really need to shoot 15 takes of everything? I think you had it on take 5. The budget can't sustain this kind of pace for 42 days. How about we do this, or how about we do this to, and suddenly you become really, you're so close to the creativity at that point, but you're bearing all the responsibility because that director could get yanked off that project by a bondsman, for instance, who represents the investment firm that financed this project in the first place. The director really has kind of a tenuous spot in that position if they can't get their portion of the job done that they've been assigned or they're responsible for. They lose their role just like anybody else, and I've seen that happen. I've seen directors be replaced on movies, so it's not,
Many times.
and it's usually the ads that call the production company, or they call the finance company, and they say, well, you need to send your bondsman down and look at this guy because he's
He's
about
going
to have a
crazy.
meltdown and we're
Yeah,
only halfway through this movie. you know I've
creative
seen that
differences.
happen. Yeah.
That's what they call it now. Yeah, I mean, the biggest role of the director is storytelling. That's what you got to be able to do. You'll be able to take text and make pictures out of it. I mean, that's in a nutshell. That's as basic gets. Yeah, there's a lot more, intricate stuff involved with that, just like everything else. But if you want to be a director, you have to have that creative aspect in you that can take something and make it visual. Yes, you have a DP to help, you have an AD, you have an art department, production designer, and all that stuff to help you with, all the little tiny technicalities of it. But overall, as a director, you need to be able to take a concept, a theory, an idea, a treatment, or a script and create something that people can see. And it's not an easy task. I mean, when I was starting out as a director, Lord knows I thought I knew it until um, seasoned director saw my stuff and goes, "What the hell is that?" I was like, "Oh, great," So just like every other crew position, yes, the director is above the line, like a producer, but you're going to be learning daily. There are still things that after being in the business this long, I've worked on a set like just before COVID started, and I learned something new. I was like, "Holy crap! I didn't know you could do that." So you always have to have that mindset that there's something always out there that could be improved or adapted, or like you said earlier, like I said earlier, you have to be flexible in it. But being a director is a little bit more than you think it is, because the perception of being a director is that they're the glamorous person. They're the ones that just sit behind a monitor and all they do is watch the performance. They give a couple instructions to the talent and that's it. But if you ever been on set, and Mike can attest to this, the director gets bombarded as much as the AD, because the AD is in charge of all the logistics, yeah, but they're not really in charge of the creative aspect of it. For example, like what color can we put the talent in that would not clash with the blue screen we're using? So, those are important things too. And it's the director's vision or scope of the show that has to make that kind of decision. The AD cannot make that decision. Um, there are other things like camera angles that the DP might discuss with the director over the entire course of the production. Like, what kind of camera angles? Are we looking at a dolly shot here? Are we looking at movement? Are we looking static, tripod, sticks, hi-hat? Are we looking at a crane? Those are all up to the director's decision. Yes, the DP has some influence on that because that is their forte, that's their expertise. But once again, it's the decision of the director. They have the final decision on that. So you always have to look at, as a director, you're not just in charge of the performances, which is one of your main tasks. You're in charge of everything, including the first AD. So you need to let the first AD do what they need to do, especially if you have a season one. But you also need to make sure you monitor all of that stuff to make sure it still fits with what you're trying to tell, how your story is developing, how you're doing it. Continuity wise, you do have usually a script supervisor to help you with that to make sure everything is consistent, but you still need to make sure it fits. Is everything looking cohesive when you edit it? Are you getting the proper amount of shots? Are you getting the right type of shots? And like Mike said earlier, if you have to shoot 15 to 25 takes of one thing, you're going to lose something on the back end because you only have a finite time frame to shoot this in per day. So if you go over that and exceed that time frame for one shot, that means another shot will either be severely limited on how much time you can shoot it, or it will be deleted from the schedule. Now, a good AD can sometimes put that on the backside on another day and shoot that, like say, for example, cutaways, inserts, where it's not as necessary to have the whole entire background or locations shoot there in the shot. So if you're doing like a tight shot or something like that, it is possible to do it other places, within reason, of course. But as a director, time is what you need to worry about just as much as the first AD, because a lot of the first ADs, they're the right hand person of the director, and most of the time they will give the director obviously what they want and what they need to get the shots done, and occasionally they give them more than they should get. So that's, as a director, you need to understand, and I always tell everybody this as being a director myself, is when you go into a shoot, now granted there are some stipulations, some exceptions to this rule, like if you're doing stunts and stuff like that that are one-time things, but you should have the final project edited already in your head. So this way you know exactly what you want per day, per scene, and the overall scope of the project, so you don't basically waste time on things that's going to end up being deleted or on the cutting room floor. You know, why would you spend that much time? I had this one director who, and I was the first AD, who wanted to spend at least an hour getting two kids running down a hallway.
Mhm.
An hour. 52 takes later. And then
Wow.
at the end of the day, this thing should have taken no more than 10 to 15 minutes. At the end of the day, he's wondering why we didn't get another scene done. And I reminded him that he wasted 45 minutes, that we could have gotten that scene done if he didn't waste it on that hallway shot.
Yeah.
So as a director, that's your fault. Okay. That is not the first AD's fault, because the AD was reminding him repeatedly, we need to move on. But still, the first AD works for the director, and the director
Yeah.
has the final say.
Yeah.
So those are the things you got to think about. And the director eventually understood after I explained it to him, and then it never happened again. He always looked at me going, Gerald, do I have one more take? Yes, you do. Because as you know, the first AD, and let's face it, everybody on the crew wants every other department to look as best as possible. Okay, there is no reason whatsoever. Okay, there are exceptions once again, but there is no reason why we would ever want to embarrass any department as a first AD or even as a director. You want to make sure they can put together the best that they can put together. And if not, take them aside and explain it to them why it's not what you want. Um, Obviously, like I said before, don't do it in front of everybody. um, but in a nutshell, that's what the director does. So
I've come to understand through experience that an embarrassment of riches is not always a virtue, and that the burden of choice is exactly that, a burden of choice. Choosing doesn't always mean selecting the best, shiniest, most expensive option that you have available to you, but picking the option that fits best in your circumstances and gets your job done on time. It makes your point as effectively as it would have with any other set of choices you could possibly make. And it's also um, works best. Your choices work best with everybody else who's making complicated choices in the service of the film. So there is a burden there that has to be accepted on the part of the director, and I don't want to diminish that role. I just constantly try to separate reality from the notion of auteur theory, which says the director is responsible for everything and everybody else is just kind of there soaking a paycheck. I think that the crew constantly has to be given the credit that they're due because of the monumental effort that they are achieving on behalf of the director who has something in their head they're trying to put on the screen. Can you speak to, in the time that we have left, anything about the scalability of this concept now? Because with the new SAG low budget agreements and the IATSE with their low budget contracts and stuff, I know that SAG contracts require DGA assistant directors to be present during filming, right? So how do we scale down as big as this can get? How do we scale it down to some of the more low budget, independent models that are out there, but still get the quality of these people involved in our projects to make sure that we get the best result possible?
can you explain that to me? In other words, I'm kind of I'm thinking of two different answers, and I just want to make sure I give you the right answer.
I want to speak to the way that the Directors Guild of America is attempting to assist and influence the world of the independent small budget productions
Oh, okay.
with these new low budget contracts, but still maintain the level of efficiency and effectiveness that they have. Because it's really easy to throw money at a problem if you've got plenty of money to burn. But when you
Right.
don't, this is where the Directors Guild, I think, can really help you in their experience and in their logistics.
Well, there's different levels of the agreement that the signatory company can apply for. There is obviously the highest one, which is like the studios have. There's and I'm going to go all the way to the bottom because the ones in the middle really don't apply. It's the ultra low agreement, and there is a platform of your budget has to be under $50,000, and you can sign on to it. They waive the fee, So there is no fee to join it, but you have to have a certain amount of DGA members on your crew. But the problem there becomes is even though their salary is reduced, it's still a lot more than most people want to afford on your project. So it's there, but it's not used as frequently as like the SAG ultra low agreement.
Mm,
That to me is a little bit more advantageous, I would say, to a production because getting a DGA AD or a DGA director, it's not necessarily going to help your production as much because the price that you're going to have to pay is going to outweigh it. Now, on the other hand, getting a SAG actor would definitely help it because they will take the direction better. They will give the performance that you're expecting, and they will know when, if it is correct or incorrect, the way you're describing it. And then they will also give you alternatives on the way the performance could be done that could enhance the production. So, in my opinion, if I was to spend the money, I would spend it more on the SAG actor than I would on a DGA member.
so would you
Um,
say we'll start seeing DGA people when these folks start working on budgets approaching, say, $1 million and up? Is that when we're gonna start to really see the DGA? Anything below that, we might not.
I can't really say that because you're talking about different types of films,
Yeah.
and different types of commercials or TV. So they're all at different budgets. So I can't say it across the board, but yes, it would be on the higher end. At least the middle to higher end budgets would definitely have the DGA members involved. Um, the DGA signatory process is put in place to make sure that whoever is signing up for it, the production company, studio, etc., has the resources not only to finance it, but they have the project that it's worthy of. So they kind of go hand in hand. Obviously, if you're doing a short independent film, there's no reason to go signatory on that, a DGA signatory, that is, because you're not going to have that kind of budget to afford it. And the project is not going to be as a scope of, say, a Transformers film. So you
Yeah.
don't really need that kind of backing. You don't need that kind of positions available for that. You're kind of, I'm going to say it's kind of overkill. And yes, I am a member of the DGA, but let's look at reality here. So I would just take the money if you had that kind of budget and get a premium principal actor to really drive the film. And of course, if you do that, you're also going to get the wow factor in there, that you have somebody with a name. If you haven't realized, the names of the actors and actresses, I'm going to put them together as actors, they are a lot more recognizable than a lot of the directors out there. There's only a handful,
Yeah.
maybe like 2 dozen directors that are actually household names. And unfortunately, those are the directors that you couldn't even afford. so so it's kind of like useless, in my opinion, to do that. Um, but if you go on the actor side, there are so many actors out there that would do it for that rate, maybe because they haven't been working in a while, but they're still a household name that maybe 20 years ago they were an A-list actor, but now they're a B-list, but they still have that sense of, wow, you got somebody important on your shoot. You're not going to find that in the director or AD world.
So the SAG contracts now are no longer inextricably linked from the DGA. You can get
Now,
SAG actors in low budget agreements and not have to
yes,
have a union AD.
that is correct. Mhm.
Because it didn't used to be that way, but I think the new world sort of
It
requires
has.
those kinds of
Well,
accommodations.
it's only in the ultra low budget agreements, and the low budget agreements. There's two
Mhm.
forms. When you start talking about the regular, I'm talking medium to up, they all have to be there. Yeah, DGA, IATSE. And when you're talking union shoot, it's
Yeah.
100% union. Now obviously in a union shoot, only the first 40 extras, if you didn't know, have to be SAG. Everything after 40 can be non-union. It's unlimited after that.
You're talking
So-
SAG-AFTRA now, right? SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah.
not Just SAG.
Well, I always call it SAG. It's the same thing right now because they're both the
Oh,
same.
they consider it now all the same entity after
Yeah.
2009?
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
okay.
they merged. So,
Okay.
but of course, AFTRA is on more on the other side, more like theater and sports and stuff like that, news and stuff like that is more AFTRA,
Okay.
whereas SAG is still more theatrical. I'm not saying that's not narrative and things like that.
Okay.
So they're separated, but they're still one now. But yeah, that's what I would do if I had that kind of budget. I would look more towards an actor instead of a AD or now, just go out there and find an AD who's a little bit seasoned, non-union. There's tons of them out there because Lord knows I just told you how difficult it is to get into the DGA. So
Yeah.
there are tons of seasoned ADs out there and directors out there that would do it for that rate. So why would you want to bring the DGA in and now you have all these rules and restrictions you got to do,
Yeah.
and it doesn't make sense. I'd rather have the performance of a lifetime on my film if I was a non-union director and get, or even even a producer of it, and I would rather have working with somebody who's even like a Michael Winslow, who hasn't done a whole lot in 20 years, but the name, so I would go with him any day over spending money on a director nobody's heard of. That gives a little bit of showbiz quality there.
Yeah, sure.
So
sure. That's
any other
terrific.
questions from you guys? Because I haven't heard that many questions. I saw a couple comments in the chats, but
Yeah, I'm kind of
Those are
using the
mostly just-
chat as well and structuring
yeah,
my
it's
questions.
just comments though. But there's no questions. Wow. So who wants to be an
think,
AD? I heard one. I saw one person say AD. Right. Okay. Who
I
wants to
only
be a
have,
director?
Sean wants to direct. He's having technical difficulties.
Oh, okay.
at the moment.
That's pretty cool. I saw that. I just saw that. I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I need to use that in mind and just leave it up.
Matthew's looking to edit. Matt, are you still in New York, or did you come home?
I am still in New York City right now, working the grind right now as a PA and still trying to get a consistent job at a video rental production and everything like that. So more video rental house, sorry. So yeah, nothing that I'm going through right now, UCF really prepared me for. So I just want to get that.
So let me ask you a question. So you're in New York. Are you staying there permanently?
Yes, I am trying to stay
Okay.
here permanently and everything. And I'm currently residing in Long Island right now, staying with my aunt right now. So tomorrow I am actually day playing on another set tomorrow. And then I'm just literally, since I landed, I've just been going day by day and just
Okay.
getting like,
Let me
whenever
give you some hints because I'm from New York. So
Thank you.
have you tried the New York 411 film book?
No.
Okay. Well, do yourself a favor. Number one, get in the film book. It's not a hard process. It's all online. Number two, everybody you see in their production coordinator that's in that film book, send them an email with your resume and a quick little cover letter, just introducing yourself and what you know and what you've done. That's how I started. I sent out
Is that a
100
web?
Yes, you can find
Okay.
it. Well, it's called the NY 411 film book. The same one is in LA.
Yeah.
Mike knows about that.
I
It's
think
the same book.
It's
It's the same
411,
company.
and then you pull down from a menu what
Yeah.
city you're in. I think is how. It
Yeah,
works.
there's a whole bunch of them, but those are the biggest ones, obviously. But yeah,
Oh.
get in that book, and once you get in that book, you're going to start getting calls because now you are basically qualified. You've been screened. So it's a resource that everybody who visits New York and who lives in New York, all the producers, production managers, and coordinators use that book. I'm still in that book. I haven't been in New York in 20 some years. I'm still in the book. I'm not sure how, but I got many calls from it when I was up there. And if you guys are in
Perfect.
any of the cities you guys are in, there typically is some kind of online film book. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah. We had
Go look
Janelle
for it.
Jordan in
Okay, good.
Production Hub. Yeah,
Oh, I know Janelle.
yeah.
She's very
she's
nice.
Great. So
Yeah, get in
I
that
just
book.
dropped the URL. That's the one, right?
I don't even. Yeah, that's it.
yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
New York
perfect.
411.
and
Yeah,
then there'll
get in
be a
that book.
pull-down menu. You tell them what city you're in.
Okay, if you guys are all starting to try and get into the industry, here's a couple things you need. Business card. Make a cheap one. Black ink on white paper.
Yeah.
Vistaprint, Staples. You can get like $10. You can get like 100 or 500. Who cares? Get those ready. Because if you ever run into a production on the street, here's my advice. Go visit it. I don't care what they say. I've done it many times. I've gotten jobs out of it. Introduce yourself, make it quick, make it short. Just tell them what you do. You're interested in getting on the shoot, hand them a business card, and walk away. If you bother them or stay too long, you killed your chances.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, create a resume. Any resume, whatever you have. I don't care if it's student films right now. It's better to show some kind of film knowledge or film experience than nothing. If you don't have any, put in, like we talked about before, put in
Oh,
some leadership skills, put in whatever you have, create one so you can send out, make it look as polished as possible, have a third party, somebody else look at it and critique it and
Yeah, we
take the
talked about
critique
resume
positively.
2 weeks ago. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Next thing is have a quick cover letter. Just introduce yourself, say what you like, what your passion is about filmmaking, what you've done a little bit, couple paragraphs, your contact information. That's it. The other thing is have some kind of social media presence, either a Facebook film, a Facebook film page, create one for yourself, a separate that's only film related, or a website, or anything you can think of that could be on social media, maybe even a LinkedIn profile. It's all helpful, trust me. And it doesn't cost you anything to do these things, well, except for the business cards, but that's necessary. Uh, and then once you guys have all that, that's what you need. And the last thing I'm going to tell you is if anybody calls you and offers you a position as a PA, your answer better be yes. I don't care what the problem is or what the issue is, because if you say no, I can't do it, I'm coming to hunt you down because you just lost your one opportunity to
Yeah.
get your foot in the door. And that's what it takes. People have tried their whole entire lives to get that one call. And if you shut the door in that call, pardon the French, I'm going to kick your
Beep. Yeah,
because
it's hard to break into those primary markets, New York and LA.
any market, I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're in the middle of freaking Idaho. If you get that call saying, hey, I need a production assistant tomorrow, your answer better be, what time do I need to show up? And
Yeah.
you figure out whatever the hell you got to figure out and change it. Because that one little job can lead to a career. That's what happened to me.
Absolutely.
If I didn't do that one commercial for that weekend, that changed my whole entire life and where my direction was going. So take the opportunity, and you never know where it's going to go. Because after that one job, I got another call for the next week, and then I got another call and another call, and it kept going. So, but that's my advice to you guys. That's what you need to do.
So Alejandro,
and
what do you think?
Oh, it's nerve-wracking, but I'm not deterred.
Good.
Shouldn't be.
Anything specific that, because I know that this is kind of your area, so now's your chance if you got anything that hasn't been covered already in the discussion.
No, I mean, I've been listening, thinking about it, and I mean, everything's been really clear so far, and it has answered some of my questions already, so we're good on that front.
Good.
Learn the paperwork if you want to be an AD.
Mhm.
Learn how to fill out the contracts, like
Yeah.
even the non-union talent release. Trust me, you're not always going to get a perfect copy, so make sure it's correct. Learn the SAG contracts. You can download them straight from the SAG website.
Mhm.
Understand what they are. They are confusing as heck. Trust me, I filled out tens of thousands of them, and know what an Exhibit G is, know how to do in and out times, know what a meal penalty is, forced call, understand how to write those down on the paperwork, learn how to do call sheets. Take a call sheet, and use it as your own, modify it a little bit, but remember, keep the same core look. because that's important. Understand a call sheet from a commercial is different than a call sheet from a feature, then is different than a call sheet from a live action thing. They're all different. So learn all of those, because if you can do that and you can go on set and say, hey, Alejandro, can you do a call sheet? Yeah, I got one right on my computer. Guess what? Gold star. You're going to get a call back. I'm telling you, it's those little things that you think are insignificant and irrelevant are how you get calls back. Because if you are one step before and above or ahead of what you're being asked, then you're showing your own initiative. And that means passion. And passion is what we want in the film industry, because that's why we're here. Because Lord knows we're not here for the long hours. We're not here for being treated like crap. We're not here for sometimes the bad food. We're not here because we get no sleep. We're not here for any of that stuff, okay? We're here just because there's nothing else we want to do.
For sure.
I don't know what
Enjoy
you're talking
life.
about. I love working in the rain with box lunch and low pay. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you're full of it. But once in a while, after you're working 14 hours, yeah, the box lunch sounds pretty damn good. It's better than the craft service table. I don't know how many damn M&M bags I can eat. So having something that's actually hot or has some substance is a good thing. So but if you learn that stuff, trust me, you will be one up, and you won't be as terrified, going on set for your first couple jobs, because you already have that. Oh, the call sheet I already created. I know how to use it. You know where to put everything in, instead of somebody giving you a blank call sheet and you're looking and going, I've never seen this one before. So have your own. And I did that when I first went on my first job. I had my own, and they're like, wait, you have your own call sheet? Let me see. And I showed them, like, oh, weird, that's nice. I like that. But can you just do this? Can you fix this? Because we have to have this in there. No problem. And then I was so comfortable doing it that it was like second nature to me. Instead of scrambling and going paranoid that, oh my God, did they like this? Are they going to want it? That is the worst thing to do. The other thing I'm going to tell you guys is confidence is everything. If you don't know what you're doing, don't show it, but you can ask about it. Okay. But still be confident. Yes, absolutely. Make sure you get clarification anytime you do it, but don't make them want to spend 30 minutes explaining something to you. Okay. Try and understand it the first time, or at least the second time. No more than that, because the last thing you want to do is waste somebody's time that you didn't understand it the first time or second time. But yeah, confidence goes a long way, so you're not going to know everything. Just get that into your head. Are you going to make mistakes? Absolutely. Just try not to make it more than once. That's all I say.
What do you
But
think,
good luck,
Jorge?
everybody.
What do you think, Jorge? Did you get all your questions answered today?
Yes.
You ready to go out there and bust ass?
Yes, sir.
How about you?
Me?
Yeah, how about you?
Yo, definitely got some questions. Like for starters, you say in the Directors Guild you get assigned to somebody to a show or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if you have a lot of your own work, a lot of your own scripts ready to go?
That's not part of the deal here.
No?
If you're you're talking about the training program?
Oh, like after the training program.
No, training program, you find your own work. After the training program is over, you're on your own.
So I can make my own stuff?
You can do whatever you want, but now you're a DGA member.
All right.
You're only guaranteed for that 2 years, you do whatever they send you to do.
Right.
After that 2 years is over and you quote, we're going to say graduate, since you're students right now. Then after that, you can do whatever you want. You can go literally and say, I don't even want to be an AD anymore. I want to just go produce. That's your call.
And you might be qualified after that experience.
I wouldn't suggest that, because you have your foot in the door, there have been people who have done that. Yeah, I know one person who has done that. So
listen, Sean, here's the value in this conversation. Okay. I know you have scripts and I know that you have ideas that you want to get across and things that you want to do and try.
The
But
Shroomiverse,
here's the
that's right.
thing, right? Until somebody comes to you and says, Sean, here's $50,000, here's $100,000, here's $1 million to make your movie, right?
Right.
How are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to keep a roof over your head, make your car payment, pay for your cell phone, do all of these things? You can get a job at the mall to meet all those expenses, and you can then try, like the blind leading a blind, looking for ways to make your film aspirations happen. Or you can make your day job a film job. Just because you're making somebody else's movie doesn't mean you're not learning how the ropes work, seeing how the thing is done, meeting the people that might be able to help finance your movie at some point in the future. There are a lot of justifications for working on crews that make other people's movies. It's so that you can stay close to the business, learn the ropes, meet the people that you need to meet, and make money to pay for your life and your expenses. And slowly but surely, you'll get closer to your own dream. And at one point, you'll have what you need to confidently make the jump to your own work when you're ready and you've seen enough.
I feel like I am ready, but you know, there's always room for more, I suppose.
All right, I see that Gerald is he's got to go into another meeting now. So I want you to join me in thanking Gerald so much for coming in, sharing your time, sharing your wisdom and your experiences and your anecdotes with us. I appreciate that. We have recorded this session so that anybody who wasn't capable of coming to the live meeting will have the benefit of going back and looking at this interview and garnering the same information. So thank you very much. If you think of any questions that you want to ask Gerald, you can forward them to me. I'll forward them on to him tomorrow, next week, whatever it is, so you won't lose access to that. But thank you, Gerald, so much for giving us
You're
your
welcome.
time today.
Thank you so much, Gerald.
Thanks
Hey, no
for
problem.
coming, dude. Appreciate your wisdom.
Glad to
Thank
be
you.
here. All of my suffering has paid off for you guys.
Yes, yes, it has.
Now it's our turn to suffer.
Hey, I want to see you guys on set, man, because that's where it should be. You guys got to just think about it. Here's the thing. If you want it, go get it. Nobody's stopping you but you.
But you.
And it's not going to fall in your lap either. So you got to take
I wish it
responsibility
did.
for your own ambition.
Unless your father is Steven Spielberg, it ain't gonna happen. So, but I wish you guys the best of luck. Good luck with school. Good luck with the industry. If you guys have any questions, forward them to Mike. I will answer them as quick as I can, because yeah, I want you guys to succeed. I want you guys to be in the industry. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, but it's worth it.
And I
All
will
right.
put
Well,
it
I'm
out
sorry,
there
guys, but I
that-
really have to go because I have another meeting in about 3 minutes.
Here we go.
Better get yourself a
Um,
drink or something for that.
Yeah, but Mike, if you want to do this again, let me know. I'm good with
Thank
it.
you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you
guys.
for everything, Gerald.
All right, I'm gonna
Have a
fly.
good
And
afternoon.
Mike, can you send me the link to this?
Yes, I will. Absolutely.
Okay.
It'll take a few hours for me to
Yeah,
do
no,
the
no,
thing and
no
get it
rush,
up on
no rush.
YouTube, but yeah,
No
absolutely.
rush. Whenever you can. All right, guys.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, but I have to leave. And it's nice meeting everybody. And good luck. See you on
Thank
set.
you, sir. Thank you. So fellas, what do you think?
Well, I still had another question, but I think you might know this one.
I
Can we
might.
join multiple guilds? Like if we join the Directors Guild, what if we wanted to join the Actors Guild too?
I think this was
Yeah.
answered in a previous class, wasn't it?
It may have. I certainly hope that the questions come up before now, but yes, you can. Most of in fact, there's no restriction on guilds. The thing about the differentiation between a guild and a labor organization like the IATSE is the IATSE, you petition for membership and you submit an application and you submit your credentials and a resume and so forth. They evaluate your experience and then they accept your application or they don't. In a guild, you have to be sort of invited. Now with the Assistant Directors Guild, you notice that Gerald said that you can apply and you can supply your resume and information like that. But the one thing that you need to join the Directors Guild that you don't need to join the IATSE is you need 3 endorsements by existing members. Okay, so if you don't have that, then you're not going to join the guild. The Cinematography Guild works the same way. You can be a camera assistant under the authority of the IATSE, but the minute you want to become a cinematographer and the minute that you aspire to that American Society of Cinematographers endorsement on your letterhead, for instance, on your business cards, ASC, right? They have to invite you to join. Okay, you don't just join the ASC. Okay, so that's kind of the difference between a guild and the IATSE, right? So, and if you're an assistant cameraman and you want to become a DP, you can work on all the non-union stuff you want as a DP, but if your work warrants it, and if the Society of Cinematographers wants to recognize you as a competent, creative achiever, they might offer you membership in the ASC by the virtue of your work. And that would be the highest form of flattery, I would think, to be recognized amongst your peers, other cinematographers, as being exemplary, and then having them ask you to belong to a very exclusive guild that indicates your meritorious performance. I mean, that's the highest form of flattery. But guilds work a little differently from labor unions in that regard. Okay. What was one of you had another question that you, or am I imagining things? Probably
I think you
imagining.
might be referring
maybe
to
both.
the Coca-Cola thing, but with Sheen said he wanted to talk about like after class.
Yeah, we can do that. What we ought to do is I can send out another Zoom link so we can stop this recording for anybody who's just interested in the DGA conversation. If you want to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Do you want me to, is that your group, Sean, that wants to have this conversation?
It's George and I's group.
Okay, so
It's a team effort.
Yeah.
I'll send you a new Zoom link as soon as we close this meeting down and we can have that discussion. Okay.
All right. Sounds like a plan, Stan.
So if there's no other questions about the DGA, we can wrap this one up because we are at 5:30 at this point. So we've almost run out of time. We have some time left though, if we need to have any more Q&A. Are we good then? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I just wanted to say that like
go ahead.
this conversation was huge for me, just to keep going and to stick it out here in New York. So I want to
good.
thank you to Michael and thank you to Gerald for that talk, honestly.
Absolutely. I want to see
Yeah.
it succeed in New York too. I mean, that's terrific. In fact, I was born and raised in Rochester. That's a little upstate from New York City. And, when I was 19, I thought that, I would want to, live and work in New York City. And, when I was 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, I'm seeing my friends graduate from college, go to New York City, get chewed up in the meat grinder, and come back 6 months to a year later flipping burgers at Burger King. And it was a daunting concept. I mean, to
Yeah.
say the least. My solution was not to be deterred, but rather to seek a smaller market where the opportunities might be a little more accessible. And I had heard that South Florida had a growing film industry, and I had family living down in South Florida. So I came down here first, and I cut my eye teeth on the industry down here for 16 years. And then I went to LA. And that was what got me in, because working in the smaller market, but working at a higher level. Now, I'm not talking about wallowing around in the micro non-existent budget level, because that doesn't really lead anywhere. That stays regional. Okay. But when I was working on, higher budget projects, I had access to people coming out here for the cheap rates and the accessibility to NASA and beaches and stuff. and they were all from LA. So they come out here, I meet them, I work with them, we develop a rapport, I get numbers. That's how you create your network. And when it came time for me to go west, I had a whole Rolodex of people I could call, and maybe they could get me jobs, maybe they couldn't, but they, at least when you're in a strange city and you don't know anybody, there's somebody that you can call and go have a beer with, have a cup of coffee with, and they can give you advice, and they can tell you how to get around town and give you the confidence to stick it out, because it's really hard sometimes when you're alone in a strange city and you got a lot riding on this deal, to get depressed about, or get, to be, to allow yourself to fail. And you really gotta have that toughness to stick it out. So if you can pull off the New York City thing, man, you're a better man than me, because I had to go south first and then west.
Yeah. Man, start applying right now to places, because man, it's so hard to get a job in this industry. I never really understood how hard it really is to get work in this industry until I actually moved up here and tried it.
Yeah.
And man, it's still like I'm literally living day by day here. And it's just not to deter anybody, but like it's hard. It's very hard. And if you can start applying now, do it, because that'll just buy you more time. If you just like sit around and just wait for graduation, like I don't know. I don't know. The biggest thing with me was like they called me up for this position. I went and interviewed, and now I'm still interviewing for a bunch of different camera rental houses right now, and PAing a lot. And every opportunity, I just say yes. Every opportunity is a yes. It's never a no. And if it's a no, I try to change my whole schedule to get it to being a yes. So yeah, no, this course is keeping me alive right now. So thank you all.
I can't think of a more ringing endorsement for opening up your mind to the possibility of working on other people's stuff. I know that you're creative. I know you want to do your own work and express your creative vision. But if you got rent to pay, right, and you got to make a car payment, then you need a job. And I can't think of any job that I would rather have than working on a film set, even if it's not mine. I would rather do that than sell shoes or insurance or flip burgers or anything else that takes me away from the industry. What you need is access. What you need is to feel like you're part of that community. And just because you're making somebody else's movie with a skill or a craft that you learned in school does not mean you're less of a filmmaker than somebody who wallows away in the basement without a paycheck, that still lives with mom and dad and creates little 48-hour film festival movies, unless that was what really gets you excited, right? And there are people that are willing to support you in that effort. But if you're going to grow and graduate, become an adult, and get out there in the world and start making your way for yourself, you got to have a job. Why not have a job on a movie set? It doesn't have to be your movie. You're still going to learn stuff. You're still going to watch another director struggle and fail, or struggle and succeed. You're going to see how that director handles things. You're going to gain useful knowledge by being there in those moments of access that you won't get any other way. Okay, so there's no nobility in starving and just doing your own insular work and not getting the benefit of other points of view and meeting other creatives and seeing other professionals at play, because that is a huge benefit to you. Okay, don't discount that. Okay, and being in a market like New York or Los Angeles or Atlanta, where the environment is there and it's fertile, if you're making money and you're earning a living and your confidence is growing and you're meeting people, sooner or later, I guarantee you, I promise you, you will feel like you have access to, and you're capable of making your dreams a reality instead of fantasizing about it from the outside looking in. Okay, I promise you the day will come. But while you're still tender and green and new to this thing, go out there and let other people hammer you into a filmmaker by doing their work and their jobs for them. Okay, you need to have your soft white underbelly toughened up. Okay, so that when you go out there asking for your own favors and your own means, you'll have a thick skin, and you won't get deterred, and you won't allow people to get inside your head. Okay, because you'll have a firm resolve and a confidence that you only get by proving yourself, and you prove yourself through the crucible of making something, whether it's yours or somebody else's. And that's the only way, my friends. That's the only way. Okay.
This
That's
is the
right.
way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Gotta build
Alright,
up those
fellas.
calluses.
Pardon me?
Like my I remember someone said, if you want to play the guitar with your fingers, you got to build up those calluses on your fingers first.
That's right. That's right. You can tell me when I can stick a pin in the end of my finger and not whine about it that I've been practicing enough, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Okay. Just remember this, okay? The most effective blade, the sharpest rapier that ever was, passed through the crucible of being molten metal that was boiled and hammered into the weapon that it became. It didn't happen by accident. It wasn't happening by osmosis. It doesn't happen in any other way. Right now, you guys are lumps of raw stock. You are pieces of steel, okay? And you need to be heated with pressure and hammered into a weapon of
For
effect.
time.
Okay. That's the only way this happens. There is no other path. Okay. So get out there and get it done. Make me proud. Do I have a second to adjourn the meeting then?
Let's do this thing then.
All right, fellas, have a good afternoon. I'll send you a fresh link in a minute for the private discussion on the Coca-Cola. All right. Thanks for
Gotcha.
coming. Appreciate it. Have a good afternoon.
Good night,
Thank
guys.
you.
See you, everyone.